outdoors. I grew up in the mountains, in fact. My father was a big hiker, and we would go for our daily hikes in the Wallowa Mountains when I lived with him, and he and my brother in particular loved to climb mountains. Now, I consider myself fairly versed in the outdoors. I know how to camp. I know how to pack a backpack and haul it up a large trail, and I know the western part of our country pretty well. And I thought, you know, for the most part, like I've encountered wildlife and all that sort of thing growing up and had a pretty lovely childhood that way, playing in the mountains. But there was this moment that happened in my 20s, and it was when my father, my older sister, and my brother Kyer and I were going up hiking. We're going to do like a 5-day hike. We don't do car camping, we hike up for 5 days. And we were going up to this place called Bonanza Peak. So we camped nearby to this glacier lake that you see there. Now, as we're coming up the trail to get to this base camp, I think I'm about 22 years old, so I'm in shape and I'm ahead of everybody. My brother's carrying like 80 pounds on his pack, and I think I only had like 30, so you know, I'm ahead of everybody. And I come up over the rise where it's starting to level off, and I look into this clearing, and there are these animals in this clearing that I have never in my life seen before. Never heard of this animal. I didn't know what it was. Now, this is the animal. Okay. Now, my brain can't conceive that I don't know what this is. Okay. I mean, I grew up, as I said, in the Cascade Mountains. How could I not know? I tried to make sense of it. I'm like, is it a beaver? No, it doesn't have the tail. Wait, ears of rabbit? No, wrong ears. Couldn't be a squirrel. It's too big to be a squirrel. It seemed to me to have all those characteristics of cute, but didn't quite make it. And I'm kind of baffled. I'm looking at this thing like, wow. And then thought occurs to me, maybe this is a really rare animal that I have discovered. Wow. So I'm sort of staring dumbfounded at this, and my brother, who's next in line coming up the trail behind me, trudging along. And I'm like, Kyer, look, what do you think that is? They're marmots, Sean. And he keeps on walking like it's no big deal. I'm like, wait a minute, what's a marmot? I had no idea. And he's like, well, they're like big squirrels or rodents. They're everywhere. And I remember thinking, why did anybody never tell me this? I felt rather foolish. It was rather humbling. But you know, when I look back on that experience, what sort of strikes me about that is that I so wanted to categorize it, right, immediately. I say, rabbit? No? Beaver? And wanted to understood. And then when I couldn't categorize it, it had to be something sort of fantastic, right? Must be rare, because after all, I know everything. I think it's kind of amazing how our mind goes from wonder and awe, like, wow, what is that? To sort of logic, however misunderstood it is, misinformed, to logic and conclusion, just sort of in the blink of an eye, right? What's that about? Why don't we just simply say, wow, I don't know, I wonder what that is. We don't sit with mystery well. We don't like to wonder. We want to know. We want to categorize. Mystery, wonder, and awe are these beautiful experiences that we as humans have, but we tend to sort of push them aside. We want to know the unknowable sometimes. But these mystical experiences, and not that marmots are mystical experiences or anything, mind you, but mystical experiences are like that. They're part of our human experiences, but we tend to want to shove them aside, to want to know what's going on. And by mystical, I want to define that for me. To me, mysticals, we're talking about mystery, wonder, and awe. Right? Whether or not you want to ascribe your feelings, those feelings to God or spirit or whatever it is, something outside of yourself, that's up to you. But these mystical experiences are part of human nature, a part of how we are in this world. But I find it interesting that it's not something that we often talk about as Unitarian Universalists, even though, as Susan points out in our reading, that it's our very first source of wisdom that we acknowledge, right? This is our first source. We have 6 sources of wisdom. If you want to know what they are, they should be on the back of your order of service that you were given. But this is the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. I love that. And our denomination does have a really rich history around mysticism, about the sense of connection, of mystery, wonder, and awe. The Universalists believed that God was love and that the holy was found wherever love was present. They found mystery, wonder, love, and awe in that power of love. The Unitarians, of course, they started the Transcendentalist movement, which found a sense of mystery and wonder, in particular, in nature. So when the 2 denominations merged in 1961, we acknowledged these experiences as our very first source. But we don't talk about it that much. And I think it's about time that we did. Because every religion has a mystical arm to it, right? The Jewish faith has the Kabbalah. The Christians have mystics like John of the Cross or St. Therese. And Islam has the Sufi mystics. In fact, one could argue, well, actually, Sean will argue, and I think many people would agree with me, that most religions start with a mystical experience. Right? You had Abraham, for the Jews, being told a vision, go into this place and I will make you the descendant, you have descendants who will rule. Jesus, right, he wrestled in the desert with something deep inside of him. And Muhammad, he felt gripped in a cave that he ascribed to Gabriel. They have these experiences, and then of course we humans want to expect something logical and have conclusions. So we build religions. I think it's human nature to not only have these unknowable and mysterious experiences, but then to try and define them, to make them concrete and knowable. But those of us who are sort of on the mystical path, who enjoy that, however, will tell you that's kind of the wrong way to go. You're going to miss out. There's a modern mystic, many of you may know Eckhart Tolle. He's sort of famous for being part of on Oprah Winfrey Show and all that. He's written a number of books. But I like how he writes this. He says, the greatest obstacle to experiencing the reality of your connectedness with the universal spirit is an over-identifying with your mind, which can cause all thought to become compulsive. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction. I'm going to say that again. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it. So it's considered normal. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness. It comes between you and your true self, between you and others, between you and nature, between you and God. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it can become very destructive. To put it more accurately, you usually don't use it at all. It uses you. The instrument takes you over. And I think that's really true here in this modern age. We've got so much information that's being thrown at our brains, right? Social media, news outlets, online classes, electronic books, they're in our hands with just one click. We're inundated with information 24/7 and our minds are having a field day. We're often no longer in control of what we think. And with it, there's been an increase in stress-related illnesses, in depression, heart disease, addictions, and other self-destructive behavior. Our minds, in a way, are killing us. I believe that in rejecting mystery, wonder, and awe, we reject an essential part of what it means to be human. That which connects us to one another, to something larger than ourselves. And in this age of division, we need more connection, not more separation. I think it's time to embrace mystery, wonder, and awe. But I think we Unitarian Universalists, we tend to shy away from this, not because we don't like it, but because, first of all, we don't like not knowing something. We are a very intellectual bunch. We literally have the highest number of degrees of any religion. That's a good thing. I'm proud of this. I think it's wonderful that we are so smart. But it can get us into trouble, right? And we also know that there are dangers that occur with ambiguity. right? Dogmas and creeds can be formed. An organized religion, we're like the least organized religion there is out there, but organized religion can happen. We don't want to go down that path. And I don't think it has to be that way. And one of the things I want us to take a look a little bit at Buddhism, partly because it's Bodhi Day, but also I think they've done things a little bit differently. They've done a pretty good job of holding sort of mysticism still at their core. They don't call it mysticism, right? They call it enlightenment, moments of enlightenment. And on this day, thousands of years ago, right, Siddhartha Gautama had an experience, a mystical experience where he felt his ego slip away into nothingness and he found himself connected to all living beings. He became awake. And he spent the rest of his life trying to help others come to that same place. Eckhart Tolle had a very similar experience. Now, I don't want to romanticize Buddhism. It has its issues. It can be patriarchal, it can be hierarchical, and it's stuck in its traditions just as much as any religion. But they did put the mystical experience at the heart of their tradition. And what I love about this is that they don't really try to explain what enlightenment is. They don't attribute it to God or anything outside of themselves. They're not concerned with the afterlife, but they're concerned with this life, of living a life filled in wonder and awe. What I find instructive is what Buddha said as he lay dying. So this morning, I found this out, our choir was singing some words. It's a Buddhist chant. It's been translated as, "Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence, hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp." Now that's a very rough translation. I went online and looked at it, and it's very rough, but it gets across the essentials. According to tradition, these are the words that Buddha gave to his disciples as he was nearing death. Because you can imagine that they were very concerned, right? What do we do after he dies? Who's going to lead us? Well, his answer is in that text. The answer is for them to search within themselves, to search for the truth, but to do it in community. He doesn't say, be a lamp unto yourself, singular. He says yourselves. Do it together. In other words, he was saying, it's not about me, but rather it's found deep within each one of us. We are our own lamps. And we do that together. We discover that together. He says, don't look to me or outside of yourself. Look inward. That's where you will find the mystery, wonder, and awe. I think it's important that we do this in community because alone in our egos can get out of control. In a healthy community, we can keep our eye out for dogmas and ways of thinking that hurt and not help us. I think that so many people are really hungering for a mystical experience of some sort. We're stressed out. We're inundated with information. And we instinctively know that somehow just resting and not knowing would be so nice. And I think that sometimes people come to church because they want to have that kind of experience, some mystical something or other that happens to them. And some people have that. They come up to me and they say, oh, what you said just touched me so much. And I sort of always say thank you, that's lovely. But I realize that I don't do anything. I'm not doing anything. Your ability to find meaning, wonder, and awe in a church experience is entirely up to you. What Beth and I do is we create the atmosphere. We hope to create a safe space. But it's up to each one of us to open ourselves to the experience. Because we want the experience to happen to us. But remember, if you remember what she says, and Susan says in our reading, is that one of the qualities of an experience like this is that it's passive. We want it to happen, but we can't make it happen. Now, I actually kind of disagree with her a little bit. I don't think it's just a matter of, oh, well, you can never tell and it's never going to happen. I think that what we do, our job as human beings, is to open our hearts and our minds to allowing it to happen. And that's a really tough thing to do. And so there's all these different ways that mystics throughout history have found in order to do this, practicing compassion, having meditation, prayer, contemplation, being in nature. All of these things are helping to open us up to those experiences. So what we do here at church is provide you with ideas that hopefully open us up. But you are the lamp. And thus the truth, the way, the wonder, the mystery, it comes through you. I think this is what the Buddha was trying to say. Create these spaces together, and then these moments come. Opening ourselves to mystery, wonder, and awe invites us to feel ourselves as part of something larger. You can call that God, you can call it love, you can call it community or connectedness. For me, it's all the same. For me, it's an invitation back to a part of our humanity that we've lost or are in danger of losing. There are all kinds of ways to open ourselves up. And this week and the coming months and this December and this time of craziness, of going to stores and all sorts of stuff coming at us, I invite you to take deep breaths, to become still, to open your mind and your heart to just mystery, wonder, and awe of this season. Because it's there. It's there waiting to be experienced for you. We're a young faith. We're still figuring out who we are and where we're going. And I love that. I love the mystery of that. It fills me with wonder and awe. May it be so, blessed be, and amen.